What's up, everybody? It is your host once again, Winifred Summer, for the Love Your Work series. And I have another amazing guest for us this day, Derian Quick, also known as Coach Quick. Welcome, Coach. Thanks for taking the time to join me today.
Absolutely. Thanks for inviting me.
Absolutely. So, you are a coach, football coach, and I want to talk to you about your decision to become a coach
Yep.
and what that process was like. Because I'm not going to act like I don't know you. I've known you for many years. We've been friends, and so I know that you used to play football, and a lot of people when they're in college or high school that play football, they either want to go to the big leagues and then they want to coach at some point. And so, for a lot of people out there who have that dream of becoming a coach, I think it's really important for us to highlight that you have been there, you are currently doing that, and to just kind of share more detail about the work that you do. So, talk to us about your journey to becoming a football coach and where you coach.
Okay. So right now I'm the head coach at a private Catholic high school in Washington, D.C. called Archbishop Carroll. I've been there now 10 years, 3 years as head coach. So my journey, as far as career wise, when it goes to coaching, I've been doing it since 2011. That's when I started coaching. Um, I didn't know I wanted to be a coach until maybe my last year of college. It was something that I thought about doing just as a side gig. Like I know I love sports. I know I loved football. Even as a youth athlete, like when I was in high school, I was the guy on the team who knew everyone's position. One of the things my coaches would say all the time is, "God dang it, quick! You need to worry about your position. You know everybody else's." And now I kind of understand why they would say that. But it also shows why I am who I am now. And even to this day, I talk to those guys. They're some of my mentors, and they can say it now. Like we knew you were going to be the guy that became a coach. Um, so my path. I did work for the government for 13 years, and then I left that job and took a dual rolling job at the high school where I'm the dean, the ninth and 10th grade dean, and I'm also the head football coach. So, my career now is two things at the same time.
So you did mention that you used to work for the government. Do you feel that the work that you did in that space has helped you in your current career as a football coach?
Oh, so it helps a little more with my dean role, but it definitely helps with my coaching role. So I was a survey statistician for the Bureau I worked at the US Census Bureau. And I studied economics in college. So really good with statistics, really good with numbers. So when it comes to football, I use that with strategizing. There's a lot of analytics in football. There's a lot of number crunching. You look at patterns, you look at, statistics and things like that. I know last week we played a game, and one of the things that I noticed is every time a team was in a certain formation, they threw the ball 90% of the time. Right. That was something that I can have that conversation with my team, with my coaches, and let them know, 9 times out of 10, there's going to be a pass in this situation. We get to the game. And of course, that comes up, and of course, it's a pass. So, things like that go hand in hand. Same thing with my role as dean. I've put together this document to track attendance and conduct. And I like number crunching and data crunching. So just looking through attendance data on a weekly basis, is something that I get to utilize my statistical skills and statistical background that I gained while working for the federal government.
Oh, that's awesome. Awesome. So coaching, I don't want to say it's the type of role that is glamorized, but there are, pros and cons to every career.
For sure.
So are there things that you didn't know about being a coach until you got into the position that maybe you wish you would have known, or maybe information you would like to give people who are interested in a career in coaching to be mindful of?
Yeah. So coaching and being a head coach are two totally different things. Um, so if you want to coach, the things you need to be mindful of is one, you're working with people, children, if you're working on that level. Um, and you have to deal with a lot more than just the sport, right? You become more than just a coach. One of my sayings is that it's bigger than football, right? So you're helping this child develop into a young person, into a productive citizen. You're teaching them, what an adult looks like. If you're a man, you're teaching them what a man looks like. If you're a lady, you're teaching them what a lady looks like, what a woman looks like. As far as those interpersonal skills, how to conduct yourself in tough situations. So those are things that you'll also be teaching. You'll show them, what brotherhood means, what team means, and those are things that you'll have to do in the workplace throughout life. So, I know for me, regardless of like a job that I interview for, me playing sports or playing football came up in every interview because people would always ask, tell me one of your best qualities, tell me about a time this, tell me about a time that. And a lot of my times that I speak about are, hey, when I was an athlete, I had to count on my teammates to do certain things. And, it would show that, this is when I used those skills before in a hostile or competitive environment. When in a workplace, those things can happen too, where the environment can get competitive or a little hostile. And you realize, hey, no moment is too big because you've been somewhere fourth quarter with 5 seconds left trying to make a decision, right? So trying to finish a deadline because it needs to be done by the end of the fiscal year doesn't seem like as big of a deal because you've been in big moments before in your life. So just that, trying to teach that. So, and I know you asked what's something that's difficult that I wish I would have known. And I'll say about being a head coach is you do less coaching as a head coach than you do as an assistant. As a head coach, is more of a managerial position. So, when it comes to managing, you have to delegate things to try to free up a lot of your time. The toughest part about being a head coach is just the amount of time that you have to put into it. And you don't really get a lot of time for you. I have to like write daily reminders to myself. Make sure you spend some time with you. Make sure you spend some time with your family. Make sure you spend some time with your team, right? In that order, right? So it's just delegating time, delegating tasks, and making sure that you're able to do all of it together. So if someone is looking to get into coaching, one, if you're in a relationship, make sure you speak about that with your partner about the time component because one thing about kids and about teams is just because you're off the clock doesn't mean you're not a coach anymore, right? Anything can happen at any time. And they may don't need the coach at a certain time, but they may need their mentor. They may don't need their mentor at a certain time, but they may need that uncle or that brother or that father figure that they, look at you as. So just be mindful of all of the roles that you take on becoming a coach, and more than just that X and O's type of person.
Thank you. Thank you so much. So, what are some of your career goals? So, you mentioned, coach assistant, head coach. What are some other things that you would like to do within the industry?
Yeah. So great question. I know I didn't envision this part, not at this moment. So when I started coaching, like I said, I was working for the federal government, living in the DMV. That's one of those jobs where people say, "Hey, you got one of those good government jobs. You don't leave it, right?" I was one of those people who actually left the government to pursue a passion job, and I had a cousin who unfortunately passed away who told me he's seen me as a head coach and would say it all the time. And I'm like, man, nah, not me. I don't want that. Like I have a great job. I have a career like that. That used to be my, comeback to him. But when an opportunity presented itself, sometimes God puts you in position to um, and in places where opportunities happen and you didn't even see those things for you, right? But the story isn't written, how you want it to be written. It's written how he wants it written. And, so me, when it comes to goals and aspirations, one, I take them as they come, but I've seen myself studying up on college coaches and understanding what it takes to be a college coach, and just looking at the time commitment. But I always think, where do I make the most impact? Right. I like the impact that I'm making now. I work at a school where there's 425 kids, but I know in the future, you know, if opportunities presented themselves, I would at least look, right? But I love where I'm at now. I just want to be able to build where I'm at now to the best that it can be. I know the school has goals and aspirations of, being greater than what it is. And I want to be a part of that journey. I want people to say, "Hey, man, that run that Coach Quick had, working here was amazing. He helped build this, right?" Like I want when my time is up, and one of my predecessors, he used to say this all the time. When they laid me across the altar, what do they say about me? Do they just say he was my coach, or do they say, he was a great coach, he was a great person, he was a great mentor, he was a great husband, he was a great father, all those things. So my goals are, to keep laying those moments down, so everyone gets to feel and be a part of that journey that I'm going on. And I want to, just make sure that I leave lasting impacts on a lot of people. So like that's my goal, is to leave that lasting impact. If a better job or a bigger job comes along during that, you know, I'll entertain it. But right now the goal is to just keep getting better day by day.
Beautifully said. So this is the Love Your Work series, and I can truly tell that you love what you do, like as a whole. Because when it comes to you, just kind of knowing you a little personally, when I'm checking in to see how things are going, it's not always about wins and losses when it comes to what it is you do. Like, sure, you might say, "Oh, we won the game," or this is that, but you talk about these students, like you're very passionate about these kids and helping them out. Like you mentioned, being a mentor and a guide, like just listening to the way that you speak to them and the things that you are putting in place to help them along, whether it is within football or just within growing into an adult. So kind of talk to us about some of the things that you have been putting in place to help these students.
Yeah. So, not to toot my own horn or our own horns, because it's a team. But right now we have 20 young men actively playing in the NCAA, right? On scholarship. So that's a big deal in my opinion. But even with those 20, we have, you know, 50, 60, 70, 80 kids who are all in college getting degrees in various things. I have kids that I've coached, who are getting married now, and inviting me to baby showers. So those are things that I love. Um, but I know, for let me ask you again. Tell me the question again, because I was about to go on a tangent about, just where these kids are and how grateful I am for them.
No, it's beautiful. It's beautiful. So I was just talking about the things that you are putting in place
Gotcha.
to help these kids, both in the sport and then just with becoming young adults.
Okay. Like I said, another great question. I know. So right now I have my brother working with me. One of my best friends. He's working at the school too as a college counselor, and we're putting together great study having skills. We want these guys to be more than just athletes. Want them to be students too. So trying to help them with grades and learning how to learn, not just learning algebra one, but how do you study to understand math, right? Same thing with English. Where can you use this in a life skill? Where can you use this in not only, work, but sports and everyday things? Should I have a young man on my team that is a published author, which is something I'm really proud of. We have We have young men that graduated are engineers now. So there are things that we're doing that are outside of football that I really enjoy. My school is motto is know, love, and serve God. Right. So we're big on community service. They have to get 100 hours, to graduate, and most of our guys normally reach that 100 to 200 hour mark of community service just because the school does so much service together. Like we have service learning days. We have days where, the whole school does community service together. We'll do like turkey drives on Thanksgiving. So, just being able to teach them more about life and in ways that they can know and love and serve God, as a whole. And I think that's one of the best things about working in a Catholic school is we're able to instill, religion too. Which I went to public school, so that's not something that I was fond of. So just being able to do that is I think another thing that we get to implement. Praying before meetings, before we go out to games, and things like that are all big moments that we're putting on these kids. And and everybody that I coach isn't Catholic or Christian. So just understanding that we're all as one in this world is something else that we get to speak on.
Beautifully said. So, since you bringing it up, I want to talk a little bit about your faith journey, if you're comfortable with that,
That's fine.
and how it has evolved over time. Because I don't know, I don't want to tell your story, so you can tell it.
Okay, that's fine. Yeah, I was a rowdy teenager. I was when I say rowdy teenager, I was inquisitive. I questioned everything. Uh, and that's how it was. And what I do appreciate of my mom is she allowed me to, right? I grew up as a Christian. We went to church, but I questioned the Bible. I questioned, the validity of things, and um if this is true, if God is real, why this? If God is real, why does bad things happen, right? Um, but they say when you're young and um you should question things. You should ask because how else do you know? How else do you learn? And I think once you find the right church and the right church home, you'll get a pastor or a preacher or a rabbi who's able to explain certain things to you that helps with your faith, right? I know right now, shoot, my not my motto, but our team scripture or verse at the moment is Mark 11, 22 through 24. And the first thing it says is have faith in God, right? For whatever you pray for, you'll receive as long as you truly believe in God and you forgive all those that have done wrong by you, right? It's a lot more in there, but I know for me, if you would have talked to me 20 years ago when I was graduating high school, this wouldn't have been a conversation that we would have had. But now it's something that we can have because, I am a man of faith, which I appreciate God not giving up on me, even though there were times I questioned him. Right. So that's and that's the beauty and the love that God has for all of us.
Man, where is the tambourine? Well, he did it. All right. But no, that's lovely. And thank you for being transparent and sharing that. So talk to us about the money that you raise, right? Because
Yeah.
you raise money, you have a cause to help out. And I want you to touch on that and why that's important.
Yeah. So we do fundraisers like every other football team. There's things that we have to buy. The thing is, we also are a private school. Tuition is $20,000 a year per student. We have families who apply to our schools from all over the DMV, from Southern Maryland. We get kids from Montgomery County, from PG County. We even get some kids from Howard County. Shout out my Columbia Ravens. We got some kids from there as well. We got some guys from Virginia. And the thing is, there's a lot of parents who want their kids in these Catholic schools, and they have a hard time affording it. I had a best friend who passed away a few years ago, and he would always help raise money. So I started a scholarship in his name, the Jeff Owens Memorial Scholarship, because he would do a great job raising funds for us. And I've set it up to where people can donate on a monthly basis, right? Where I'm not requesting a whole lot from people. I ask whatever you can give, you can give, even if it's just 15, $10 a month, $20 a month, and just dedicate 10 months, right? You do $20 a month for 10 months, you're talking about $200. But if I get 20, 30, 40 people to do it, 100 people to do it, we're able to cover a good amount of kids' tuition. And I'm not trying to pay everybody's full tuition, right? Like there has to be an investment for these kids in there with the families as well. But there are times you want to help out the family who has nothing, right? There are some families who have nothing, who, of course, young man may be really athletic, right? Um, it's a little easier to find funds for those kids that are really athletic. But what about the family who kid is mediocre, in the eighth grade, ninth grade, but they come to a program with a coach who cares about them and help a kid get developed? You know, I have some kids on my team, one who comes to mind right now, who came into our program, not recruited, all of, 5'7", 125, 130 pounds. And now he's a 5'10", 175 pound starting receiver, with offers from, Division I schools, and he has a 3.7, 3.8 GPA, right? So, this is somebody who trusted the process, who families struggle financially to get things done, but always were willing participants in all fundraisers where we could help, we would. Um, so we raise funds for many things. I feed my team. Anytime we have half days and the cafeteria is not open, I feed the boys. When we have away games, I make sure I feed them before we go to those away games Friday nights. Saturday games, we have team dinner, and feeding 70, 80 kids at one time, boys who are turning into men. You can see a $400, $500 tabs at a time. So, trying to get $20 a month from a couple people, it's never going to really pay those tabs, but it does help. It does help. So I know sometimes people get a little nervous and a little hesitant about donating funds. But it is tax deductible. With us being a 503c school, and plus there's a nonprofit organization that me and my partner had started before he passed, that you can donate to as well. That funds go directly into the program.
Excellent. Thank you for breaking that down because, so many people, and I was one of those people for a little while because I just didn't understand. Because when you hear private school, you're just kind of like, oh, well, they got money. Everybody has money. And then you turn around and see fundraisers and you're like, hold on.
Yeah. Yeah, it's and I think that's the misconception. The thing, well, I'll say for me, so most private schools get money from endowments or from alumni, right? We have a large alumni base. The thing is, our alumni base, um, they're great, right? They're great. They love their school. Um, it is just we're not in a place where alumni are giving back as often as compared to some other schools. But we do have a good amount that do give back. You know, it's just it's sometimes it can be like a give take. It's like, hey, we want to see more wins before we give more funds, and it's like, hey, you give more funds, you probably get more wins, right? It's a little bit of both. Um, but the thing is, like, regardless of what funds come in or don't come in, we're going to work really hard for these kids regardless, right? Even if I don't raise a dime, I know, even if people don't voluntarily give money, I know I'm still going to raise funds somewhere, to make sure I have at least what these kids need to be successful. Just because it's a passion, right? Like, I can't say I'm a man of faith and then be concerned with funds, right? I know eventually it's going to come in, right? And that's what I say, live by faith. I can't say Mark 11, 22 to my kids, worried about wins. Like, don't worry, have no doubt. but then have doubt when I'm talking about the funds coming in, right? I know eventually they will come in. Even think about it, even you right now, you had some hesitance and some confusion about why a school would need funds, but there's an opportunity right now where you can ask the question and you can hear, why a school would need those type of funds.
Great. Well, I want you to definitely name drop, shout out, your foundations and scholarships, and let people know how they can get in contact with you, support the school, support these students, and donate some funds.
Yeah. If you ever want to find us online, we're on Instagram. It's probably the easiest way to find us, and that'll be Carroll Football DC, at Carroll Football DC, Carroll, Football DC. You can find us on Twitter as well. I believe it's Carroll DC Football. And we also have a website that you can check out that shows all of the coaches, all of the players, and that's carrolldcfootball.com. CarrollDCFootball.com. Check it out. I really like the website. You get to see a lot of our highlights. We have a pretty good team this year. I'm excited about what's going on. Um, like find us online. If you want to find me on Twitter, I am, I believe, Coach Quick underscore. You can find me there, or X. Forgive me. I don't want to get banned. But on X, that's what it's called. Um, but besides that, um, you can Google me. I'll pop up. All right. Same thing,
Okay.
Carroll Football.
I love it. I love it. Well, Coach Quick, Darian Quick, thank you so much for your time and thank you for serving the way that you do, serving the students and just being a person that loves what you do and puts y'all all into it. It's definitely evident that your heart is in it, your mind is in it, and that God is using you in this amazing way. And so continue to do the great work. And it's been a pleasure having you on the Love Your Work series. I appreciate you so much.
Thank you very much for having me.